My hand froze on the doorknob. Inside, my husband was laughing a dismissive, arrogant sound that made my stomach turn. Just take a title loan on her SUV. She's a pushover. She won't dare protest. In that second, my love died, and I swore an oath. Before the story begins, please leave a comment below telling me where you're tuning in from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can grow and bring you even more compelling stories. Rain was coming down in sheets that afternoon. The I-90 traffic into Chicago was a nightmare. But I was grateful to be back from my business trip 2 days ahead of schedule. My body felt wrecked after 3 grueling days managing a branch audit in Denver. All I had in my head was one thing: a hot bath and sleeping in the arms of my husband, Mark. I unlocked the front door slowly, intending to surprise him. The house seemed quiet, but the light in the living room was on. Faintly, I heard voices drifting from the den. It was Mark's voice, and a laugh I knew all too well. The annoying cackle belonged to Tyler, Mark's younger brother. He was pushing 30 but still clinging to his older brother for survival like a barnacle. I walked softly, my steps silent on the plush carpet. Just as I was about to turn the corner into the den, I stopped dead. The sentence coming out of my husband's mouth made my blood run cold. Just take it. Go cash it out. Go to that lender my buddy knows tomorrow morning. Mark's voice sounded so casual, full of pride, as if he were a hero. For real, bro. Is it okay? What if Sarah flips out? That SUV is her baby. She bought it with her own savings. Tyler sounded hesitant, but I could hear the greed in his tone. Oh, just use it, Ty. My wife is obedient. She won't dare say a word. Besides, she's too busy climbing the corporate ladder. She won't check the safe anytime soon. Even if she finds out later, I'll just tell her it was for the family. And she'll fold. You know how soft-hearted she is. The important thing is now you can open that trendy coffee shop you've always wanted. Boom. It felt like lightning had struck me right in the chest. My legs went weak. My hand gripping the handle of my suitcase trembled, holding back a rage that suddenly exploded in my chest. I'm obedient? I won't dare protest? For 5 years of marriage, I had always tried to be a respectful wife. I suppressed my ego. My salary was significantly higher than Mark's, but I never belittled him. I bought that luxury SUV with my own blood, sweat, and tears pulling all-nighters, saving penny by penny so we could have a safe vehicle for our future family. And now Mark was handing it over just like that to Tyler? To a parasite whose only job was hanging out at bars, cycling through girlfriends, and dreaming of being a successful entrepreneur without ever wanting to start from the bottom? In that instant, my love for Mark evaporated without a trace, replaced by an overwhelming sense of disgust. I took a deep breath, holding back the tears threatening to spill. Don't cry, Sarah. Crying won't solve anything, I told myself. Very carefully, I turned around. I walked backward, stepped out of the house, closed the door as silently as possible, and got back into the Uber that, thankfully, hadn't left yet because the driver was checking his GPS. I decided to stay at a hotel that night. Let Mark think I was still in Denver. Tonight, I needed a clear head to formulate a plan. A revenge plan they would never forget for the rest of their lives. The next morning, I returned home with a facial expression I had carefully curated. Exhausted but cheerful, exactly like a wife just returning from a business trip. Hey, honey, you're back already? I thought you weren't due until the day after tomorrow. Mark greeted me at the door, slightly startled, but quickly covered it with a warm hug. A hug that, for some reason, felt like the constriction of a snake this morning. Yeah, babe. The audit finished early. I missed home, I replied, smiling as sweetly as possible. I looked into his eyes. They looked calm. No trace of guilt whatsoever. Amazing. My husband was an extraordinary actor. Wow, great timing. I was just about to head to work. You get some rest, okay? Tonight, we'll eat out. Mark kissed my forehead and hurried off to his car. As soon as the sound of his engine faded, the smile on my face vanished instantly. I locked the door and half ran to the master bedroom. My heart pounded as I opened the closet, moved a stack of clothes at the very bottom, and pulled out the small document lockbox, the key to which I always hid in my vanity drawer. Click! The safe door opened. I rifled through the documents inside: birth certificates, marriage license, the deed to my late mother's house. But the blue folder that should have contained the certificate of title for my SUV was gone. Empty. My fists clenched until my knuckles turned white. The fact that Mark dared to rummage through my personal belongings, take my valuable assets without permission, and give them to his brother. This wasn't just about money. This was the most naked betrayal a husband could commit. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space in the drawer. In my head, memories of buying that car replayed. I remembered how exhausted I was taking on freelance projects for 2 years. I remembered how proud I was holding the keys for the first time, but Mark ruined it. He insulted my hard work. He mistook my patience for stupidity. You think I'm a submissive, stupid wife, Mark? I whispered to the empty room. You picked the wrong opponent. I grabbed my phone. There was no point in crying or throwing things. I had to move smart. That evening, the house felt livelier than usual. Mark didn't take me out to dinner because, apparently, Tyler came over bringing deep dish pizza, my favorite. Ah, of course. Bribery pizza. I knew their game perfectly. Wow, Sarah, you look even more gorgeous after coming back from Denver. The audit went well? Tyler greeted with his trademark grin, lounging in the dining chair as if he owned the place. His appearance tonight was slightly different. He was wearing a designer shirt that looked brand new and a watch that was an expensive watch. Where did he get the money? Ah, right. Money from my car title. It went well, thankfully. Ty, you look sharp. Got a date? I asked, feigning ignorance while staring at the plate on the table. Mark, pouring water, immediately chimed in with a proud tone. Get this, honey. Tyler here is finally becoming an entrepreneur. He's prepping to open a hit coffee shop in Wicker Park. Industrial minimalist concept. So, he's got to look the part to be convincing. Oh, really? I widened my eyes, displaying an expression of amazement that was perfectly natural. Wow, that's amazing, Ty. Finally, your own business. Where'd the capital come from? Opening a coffee shop requires expensive espresso machines. Rent in Wicker Park isn't cheap. Tyler looked a bit flustered, his eyes darting toward Mark. Mark quickly took over the conversation. Ah, Tyler got an angel investor. One of his buddies believed in his business idea. Right, Ty? Yeah, Sarah. A friend chipped in for the capital. Pray for me so it goes smoothly. Once it's successful, you can drink coffee there every day for free. Tyler laughed loudly, relieved to be off the hook. I laughed along softly. Of course. I'll pray for the best. Inside, I wanted to vomit. Sitting at the table with these two liars was draining my energy. Mark casually shoveled pizza into his mouth, occasionally patting his brother's shoulder with pride. He truly felt like a great big brother for funding his sibling without feeling a shred of guilt that the funding came from robbing his wife. I continued serving them that night, pouring water, grabbing napkins, smiling gently like the ideal wife. Mark looked at me with satisfied eyes. He was definitely thinking, see, my wife is docile, easily fooled. Enjoy that smile, Mark. Enjoy your holy coffee, Tyler. Because soon, that coffee is going to taste like poison in your throats. The next day during my lunch break, I rushed to a café in the Loop. In the corner, a woman with sharp glasses and a tailored blazer was waiting for me. It was Rachel, my best friend since college, who now worked as a senior auditor and financial consultant. If anyone knew the ins and outs of banking and predatory lending, it was Rachel. Your husband is insane. Actually insane, Sarah. Rachel almost slammed her hand on the table as soon as I finished telling her the story and the empty safe. Her breathing was heavy. She was clearly more emotional than I was. How could he steal his own wife's car title for that leech of a brother? Why are you just sitting there? If I were you, a frying pan would have already met their faces. I sipped my iced tea calmly. If I explode now, Rach, they'll just apologize. They'll bring up religion, bring up stand by your man, bring up family duty. Eventually, they'll tell me to let it go. I don't want that. I want them shattered into pieces so small they can never put themselves back together. Rachel looked at me, a little chilled, but a second later she smirked. Okay, so what do you need me to do? Here's the thing, Rach. The title was definitely pawned at a title loan place or a shady lender. It can't be a legitimate bank because that process would require my direct signature and a lengthy credit check. Mark needed fast cash for Tyler. The problem is, the registration and title are strictly in my name. How could he get the loan approved if I wasn't there? Rachel frowned. Her accountant instincts kicked in immediately. That is the problem. Lending regulations are tighter now. If the title is in the wife's name, the husband can apply, but there must be written consent from the wife, complete with her ID, and often the wife has to be called or photographed during disbursement. That's the point, I replied quietly. I was never called by any lender. I was never photographed. My driver's license has been in my wallet the whole time. It never went missing. Rachel's eyes widened. That means he forged the documents, Sarah. Either he used a photocopy of your ID and forged the signature, or he's in cahoots with an insider at the loan company. I need your help to find out which company holds my title. You have contacts in the industry, right? Rachel smiled widely, typing something on her phone rapidly. Give me your license plate number, your full name as it appears on your ID, and Mark's name. In less than 24 hours, I'll tell you where your title is being held hostage. I handed over a slip of paper with the data. The real battle had just begun. The 4-hour promise turned out to be too long for Rachel. By 9 p.m. that same day, my screen lit up with Rachel's call. Mark was in the shower. So I quickly answered and walked out to the back balcony. Sarah. Got it. Rachel's voice sounded serious. Your car is pawned at Quick Cash Title Loans on Western Avenue. The loan is for $15,000. High interest, 2-year term. I gasped. $15,000? That much money handed to Tyler, who didn't even know the difference between revenue and profit? What about the spousal consent? I asked, demandingly. This is what gave me chills, Sarah. The sound of papers shuffling came from the other end. I asked a buddy of mine who's a supervisor there to pull the application file. I paid him a nice fee to snap photos, and he just sent them over. Check your WhatsApp. My hands shook slightly as I opened the image notification from Rachel. There were 2 photos. The first was a spousal consent form. At the bottom, my name was printed clearly, and above it was a signature. My heart thundered. It wasn't my signature. It was similar, very similar, the result of practice, perhaps, but the final stroke was different. Mark had forged my signature. The second photo made my blood boil to the crown of my head. It was a photocopy of my driver's license, but the photo of my face was blurry. And ridiculously, there was a strange signature over the seal. Mark had forged everything to smooth out the cash disbursement. He underestimated legal procedure. He committed a felony. You see it, Sarah? Rachel's voice broke the silence. Your husband isn't just a thief. He's a fraudster. Document forgery falls under identity theft and fraud. That carries prison time. I stared at my phone screen for a long time. It was ironic. The man who was supposed to be my protector was digging his own grave for the sake of his ego and his leech of a brother. Hello, Sarah? You still there? I took a slow breath. The night air felt colder, but my heart burned bright with certainty. Mark had handed a weapon of mass destruction directly into my hands. I see it, Rach, I answered, my voice strangely calm. Too calm. Save all those photos. Email the originals to my private account. Tomorrow, I need the number of that lawyer you know, Mr. Sterling, right? You want to report Mark to the police now? I smiled coldly in the darkness of the balcony. I heard the bathroom door open inside. Mark's footsteps approached. Not yet, Rach. Too soon. Let Tyler open his coffee shop. Let the two of them feel like kings of the world. I want to see how high they fly before I clip their wings and let them crash into the concrete. I hung up just as Mark hugged me from behind. The smell of his body wash wafted up. Who were you talking to, babe? You looked so serious out here in the cold. Mark whispered, kissing my neck. I turned to look into my husband's eyes, full of deceit, and smiled. The sweetest and deadliest smile I could muster. No one, honey. Just Rachel talking about work. Let's go inside. It's getting late. Your submissive wife will follow your game script, Mark, until the time comes for me to write the ending. Saturday morning, while Mark left with the cliché excuse of helping Tyler paint the shop, I was sitting in a VIP room at a Japanese restaurant in downtown. Across from me, Rachel was pouring green tea. Opposite us, a middle-aged man in a sharp suit and thick glasses was examining the papers I had just printed. He was Mr. Sterling, a corporate lawyer and criminal defense expert whose reputation was unquestionable. My company used his firm for an embezzlement case once. His character was calm, but his brain was sharp as a scalpel. Interesting, mumbled Mr. Sterling, placing the photos of the forged ID and loan forms on the table. He looked at me over his glasses. Miss Sarah, from a legal standpoint, this meets the criteria for criminal conduct, identity theft, forgery, fraud. The evidence is solid. This signature is clearly different from your actual one if tested in a forensics lab. So, we can go to the police right now. Yes, let's nail him, Rachel interjected enthusiastically. Mr. Sterling raised a hand, smiling thinly. We could. The police would process it immediately because the evidence is strong. But the question is, Miss Sarah, what end result do you desire? I looked Mr. Sterling in the eye. I want them to have no way out. I don't want Mark just detained briefly, only for his family to pool money for bail or hire a lawyer to twist the facts. I want him and his brother destroyed financially, socially, and mentally. I want them to pay in full for the pain they caused me. Mr. Sterling nodded slowly, as if he had anticipated my answer. In that case, do not report it now, Rachel frowned. Wait, why? If she reports it now, Mark still has that $15,000, or most of it. He could use that stolen money to hire a lawyer, bribe people, or run away. Mr. Sterling explained with his calm, baritone voice. In the art of war, Miss Sarah, never attack the enemy while their supplies are full. I began to understand his direction. You mean, let them spend the money first? Precisely. Mr. Sterling leaned forward. Let Tyler open his coffee shop. Let that $15,000 turn into espresso machines, rent, and a lifestyle. Someone who has never handled big money and has no business sense will destroy that capital in less than 3 months. And when the money runs out, the shop collapses, and the monthly loan payments start choking Mark. I murmured, piecing the puzzle together. At that weakest point is when you swing the sledgehammer, Mr. Sterling continued. Mark won't have a dime to defend himself. Meanwhile, regarding Tyler, we can entrap him with receiving stolen property since the funds went into his account. You will watch them turn on each other when the ship sinks. Goosebumps rose on my arms hearing the plan. So neat, so deadly. I nodded firmly. All right, Mr. Sterling. We follow your plan. I'm going to play a role for a little longer. One more thing, Miss Sarah, Mr. Sterling warned before we parted. Starting today, secure all your personal assets. Separate your accounts. Ensure not a single dollar of yours can be accessed by Mark when he starts panicking about debts later. I smiled coldly. Already thought of that. 3 weeks passed. And the grand opening of the grind, Tyler's pride and joy funded by my blood and sweat, arrived. The storefront was in a trendy part of the South Side. The rent must be choking. From the outside, the place looked aesthetic with exposed brick walls and warm Edison bulbs. A row of flower arrangements lined the front. One of them read, Success to my brother. From Mark and Sarah. Ha! Mark even used my name on flowers bought with the fraudulent loan money. I stepped out of the Uber holding Mark's arm, playing the supportive wife perfectly. Mark beamed with pride. His chest puffed out as he greeted friends. Dude, Mark, you're crazy, man. Success really looks good on your brother, shouted one of Mark's colleagues, patting my husband on the back. Mark laughed humbly, but his arrogance was obvious. Ah, it's nothing, bro. That's what big brothers do. Gotta support the dream. Money is easy to find. It's the intent that matters. I stood beside him, smiling along. Yeah, easy to find. Just steal your wife's title and forge her ID. Behind the bar, Tyler was busy preening instead of brewing coffee. He wore a leather apron that cost as much as my weekly grocery budget, slicked back hair, and that expensive watch I saw earlier. The espresso machine behind him was a top-of-the-line Italian brand. If my estimate was right, half the capital was gone just on that machine and the decor. Sarah! Mark! Tyler approached us with 2 cups. Try this. The Grind Signature Blend. I took a sip. It was terrible. Too sweet. The coffee was watery, tasting like caramel-flavored sugar water. Tyler was clearly using cheap beans to cut production costs, but selling at premium café prices. Fatal mistake number 1 in the F&B business. How is it, babe? So good, honey. Addictive, I lied smoothly. You're amazing, Ty. How's the staff management? Anyone handling the books? Tyler waved his hand, the typical gesture of an arrogant man who didn't want to think. Chill, Sarah. Bookkeeping is easy. I'll just have the cashier recap every night. The important thing now is marketing. Look, girls are lining up to take photos at our Instagram spot. I glanced where he pointed. There were a few teenagers taking photos, but they had ordered 1 iced tea for 4 people. At another table, Tyler's biker gang buddies were hanging out, smoking, vaping, and ordering food without looking like they intended to pay. Tyler kept giving out discounts. Friend prices, or comping orders entirely to look like a generous boss. Mark didn't see the destruction right before his eyes. He was too busy enjoying the praise. But my eyes, the eyes of an auditor used to analyzing the financial health of multinational companies, could already calculate the remaining lifespan of this shop. 3 months? No. If Tyler kept this up, the grind wouldn't survive past month 2. I kept smiling all night, silently counting down to their destruction. The next day at the office, I immediately executed Mr. Sterling's advice. I wasn't going to die foolishly when the time bomb Mark set finally exploded. First, I went to HR. I need to change the direct deposit account for my payroll, I told the staff. Previously, my salary went into Bank A, where Mark knew the mobile banking password. We used it for the mortgage and bills. Sure, Sarah. Which bank? I handed over a voided check from a new account at Bank Z. I opened this account just this morning and intentionally opted out of paper statements so Mark wouldn't see any mail. Second, I liquidated all my mutual funds and personal CDs. It totaled about $30,000. I moved it all to the secret account. Third, I called my life insurance agent. Hi, I need to change my beneficiary. My husband, Mark. Please remove him. Replace him with my mother. Finished with the non-physical money, I went home earlier than usual. While Mark was still at work, I grabbed the jewelry box in my dresser, gold bars and heirloom necklaces. I packed them up and deposited them in a safe deposit box I rented at a nearby bank. Now, how to keep Mark from getting suspicious. I left about $500 in our joint account, just enough for groceries and electricity. If Mark asked why my savings vanished, I had the perfect script ready. A crypto scam. That night, Mark came home whistling. He sat on the sofa watching TV. Honey? I called, putting on a sad, slightly panicked face. I sat next to him. What's up, babe? You look pale. Mark turned, putting down the remote. I think I got scammed, Mark. I looked down, clutching my robe as if terrified. Scammed? What do you mean? My savings. The money in the mutual funds. I moved it all to a crypto investment platform a work friend recommended because she said the returns were huge. But today, the website is down. The news says the founder ran off with all the funds. My savings are gone. Mark's eyes widened. He sat up straight. Huh? Gone? Like, all of it? I nodded slowly, forcing a single tear to fall. Yes. I'm so sorry. I just wanted our money to grow fast. Now, all that's left is enough for food this month. Mark wiped his face roughly. There was a flash of panic in his eyes. Of course he was panicked. All this time, even though he had a decent salary, he always knew my savings were there as a safety net if he ran out of money. Now, he felt that net snap. What is wrong with you, Sarah? If you want to invest, talk to your husband first. Don't act so smart on your own, Mark yelled. His voice rose. This was the first time he yelled at me over money. Inside, I smirked with satisfaction. Act smart, you say? You're the one who stole a car title without telling your wife. I'm sorry, Mark, I whispered. Mark huffed in annoyance, then stood up and slammed the bathroom door. He didn't know that with my acting tonight, I had locked my vault tight. If tomorrow he was chased by debt collectors, he wouldn't be able to milk me with the excuse of borrowing wife's money. Entering the 4th week of the grind's existence, Rachel called me with good news. She had prepared our most crucial chess piece. Anthony. Anthony was an acquaintance of Rachel's, a slick-talking sales rep for coffee beans and café machinery. Rachel had bribed Anthony to play a specific role. Target is heading to your brother-in-law's cafe today, Sarah, Rachel reported. That afternoon, I stopped by Tyler's shop with the excuse of bringing cookies. I sat in the corner, opened my laptop, pretending to be busy working while observing. The shop was dead. Only 3 customers, and 2 were playing mobile games for hours with a single cup of iced coffee that had melted into water. Tyler sat at the register, face sour, doom scrolling on social media. Before long, an expensive SUV which I knew was a loaner from Rachel's office parked out front. Out stepped Anthony. He was dressed impeccably. Slim-fit shirt, chinos, polished loafers, carrying a branded leather briefcase. He radiated the aura of a successful businessman that Tyler desperately wanted to emulate. Anthony walked in, looking around with an evaluative air, then ordered an espresso. Tyler, lazily, told the barista to make it. When the coffee was served, Anthony tasted it and deliberately furrowed his brow. Who owns this place? Anthony asked with a heavy baritone voice. Tyler immediately stood up, feeling challenged. I do. What's up? Coffee's weak. Anthony smiled slightly, approaching Tyler and extending a hand. Anthony, exclusive bean distributor for premium cafes in the Gold Coast and Lincoln Park. Your place. Design is incredible. Your machine, La Marzocco, top class. But it's a shame. Anthony deliberately let the sentence hang. Shame why, man? Tyler took the bait. His ego was pricked and stroked in the same breath. Your beans are insulting a machine this expensive, Anthony said bluntly. You're using cheap roasts. High-class consumers won't come back after the first sip. Such a waste. I can see you have a sharp business vision. Shame to let a cafe this good die slowly. Tyler's face flushed red, caught between shame and pride at being told he had sharp business vision. Well, just opened. Capital hasn't turned over perfectly to buy premium beans yet. Anthony patted Tyler's shoulder like an old friend. That's exactly why I like the spirit of young guys like you. Willing to take risks? Tell you what, I have a stock of super premium Arabica and specialized wine process beans. Usually, I don't serve new cafes. But for you, I can give you terms. Tyler's eyes lit up at the magic word. Terms. Meaning, pay later. What kind of terms? Anthony opened his briefcase, pulling out bags of sample beans that immediately filled the air with a rich aroma and a black folder. I supply your bean needs for 1 month. Value is about $5,000. You brew it, sell it at a high price. You pay me net 30. So, you can spin the customer's money first. Consider it my support for young entrepreneurs. Tyler seemed to think, but I knew his brain couldn't process the risk. He only imagined his revenue soaring and people praising his coffee. Is there a contract? Tyler asked, trying to sound professional. Obviously. Anthony handed over 2 sheets of paper with his company logo, legally valid. Standard distributor stuff. Read it over. Just agrees on volume and the due date. I held my breath from my corner table. Inside that document, on the second page, bottom paragraph in slightly smaller print, was a trap clause Anthony inserted at my request. If the second party, Tyler, fails to settle the invoice by the due date, a late fee of $500 per day will be applied with no maximum cap, and the first party reserves the right to seize assets at the business location. Tyler held the pen. He looked at the contract for a second, but Anthony maneuvered immediately. If you're hesitant, no worries. The café on the next block was asking for supply too. Maybe I'll just give the quota to them. Anthony pretended to pull the paper back. A cheap trick, but highly effective on a man full of ego. Wait. Tyler hurriedly held the paper down. Without reading the details of page 2, Tyler scribbled his signature over the line. A valid, binding, legal signature. Great. Smart decision, Tyler. Anthony smiled, satisfied, shaking my brother-in-law's hand. Goods arrive tomorrow morning. Success to the business. Anthony turned, walked out, and glanced at me for a split second before getting into his car. I looked down, hiding a wide smile behind my coffee cup. Welcome to hell, Tyler. You just signed your business's death warrant. Month 2 of the café was critical. And just as I predicted, Tyler's stupidity ruined everything. The premium beans from Anthony arrived, but Tyler didn't know how to price or manage inventory. His baristas made mistakes dialing in the grind, wasting expensive stock. Added to Tyler's habit of letting his crew hang out for free every night, the café's operational cash flow was bleeding out. The end of the month was approaching. That meant Mark's loan payment for month 2 was due, coincidentally at the same time as Tyler's invoice for the beans. But instead of panicking about the negative cash flow, Mark and Tyler held a second-month celebration party at the café on a Saturday night. I came wearing an elegant maroon dress. My makeup was perfect. I sat on the VIP sofa holding a glass of orange juice. While Mark was busy singing karaoke on a portable machine rented for the night, Tyler was busy flirting with a waitress he just hired last week. Honey! Fun, right? Mark approached me, out of breath from singing. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He looked happy living in the illusion bubble he created. So fun, Mark. Really lively. I replied casually. Mark sat next to me, suddenly putting his arm around my shoulder. His tone changed to something quiet and wheedling. Hey, speaking of lively, Tyler's revenue this month was mostly reinvested into stock, so cash is a little tight right now. This was the moment I was waiting for. The big brother, starting to beg to cover his brother's rot. And? I asked, with an innocent expression. Well, I was wondering if you had any idle cash lying around. Just about $2,000 to help cover Tyler's payroll. Poor staff worked hard. He'll pay you back next month once revenue stabilizes. 5 months ago, hearing this begging tone would have made me transfer the money instantly. But tonight, my heart was as cold as a block of ice. I sighed heavily, showing an expression of deep regret. Oh, Mark, I'm so sorry. Did you forget? My savings are all gone from that crypto scam last month, and my salary this month was docked heavily by corporate because the audit found a discrepancy in the branch, and my team had to cover the loss. Mark froze. His arm around my shoulder went slack. You don't have any savings left, Sarah? Borrow from a friend? Like Rachel? I widened my eyes, pretending to be offended. Mark, you're telling me to go into debt with a friend to pay Tyler's employees? My God, I'm barely scraping by for groceries this month. You work too, Mark. Where's your salary going? My question stabbed right at his heart. Mark's face went pale. He looked awkward. Yeah. Salary is there. He just had other expenses too. Whatever. If you don't have it, don't force it. Mark stood up immediately. He looked agitated and panicked. He moved away from me and approached Tyler, whispering with a tense face. I watched them from afar. Two rats, realizing their ship was slowly taking on water. Enjoy the music and karaoke, my dear husband. Because starting tomorrow morning, the only song you'll hear is the ringing of debt collectors calling. Month 3. The Chicago heat felt oppressive, but that was nothing compared to the heat inside the grind. Rachel sent me a voice recording and photos from her spy watching the shop that afternoon. The destruction I awaited had finally arrived. The shop was empty. The coffee machine was off. At the bar, 2 of Tyler's employees, a barista and a cashier, stood with angry faces, arms crossed. Let's be real, Tyler. We need to eat, pay rent. It's the 15th, and last month's paycheck hasn't dropped a dime. If there's no clarity today, we're taking this grinder as collateral, the barista threatened loudly. Tyler, usually dapper, looked a mess. Greasy hair, wrinkled shirt. He rubbed his face in panic. Chill, bro. I'm working on it. Cash is tight. Can't you see it's dead in here? I'll transfer it tomorrow. I'll borrow from my brother. Before the employees' strike was resolved, a truck pulled up in front of the storefront. Anthony, the distributor, walked in holding a thick folder. His face was no longer friendly. Tyler. Anthony swallowed hard, his face pale. Afternoon, Tyler. Anthony greeted coldly. He slammed the folder onto the counter. Thwack. Tyler jumped. Per contract, payment for the bean supply was due yesterday. I checked my company account. No transfer of $5,000 received. Anthony, man, I'm so sorry. This month is a total collapse. Can I get a week extension? I swear I'll pay. Tyler begged like a child caught stealing. His arrogance evaporated. Anthony smiled thinly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. A week extension is fine, but let's calculate according to the clause you signed. Late fee is $500 per day. Anthony pulled out a calculator, typed fast, and showed it to Tyler. $5,000 principal. You want 7 days? That adds $3,500 in fines. Total $8,500. If you don't pay next month. Fines run indefinitely. And per page 2, I have the right to seize the espresso machine and assets tonight, if I want. Huh? $500 a day? Tyler nearly fainted. That's insane. That's loan shark rates. That's called a legal business contract. And you signed on the line. I give you until tomorrow at noon. If the money isn't in, my legal team comes to collect the goods. Good day. Anthony turned and left, leaving Tyler collapsing on the floor of his own café, crying, holding his head. Seconds later, Tyler grabbed his phone, calling the only savior he had. Mark. On the other end, at his office, Mark must have had a splitting headache. His salary was already gone covering Tyler's lifestyle last month. Mark had no money, and soon he would realize that not only was Tyler threatened, but he himself was on the edge of a cliff. 2 days after the incident at the cafe, Karma began knocking on our door. Literally knocking, in the form of a mail carrier. That morning, Mark had left for work looking disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. He barely spoke to me since I pretended to lose my money. He was irritable. Around 10 a.m., while I was working from home, the doorbell rang. The carrier handed over a brown envelope with bold lettering on the top left. Quick cash title loans. I smiled. This was it. The first notice. I went back inside, boiled a kettle, and held the envelope over the steam. Carefully, I peeled open the seal. I pulled out the formal letter. Mark's name was clear as the debtor, my SUV as collateral. In the middle, red text screamed, Notice of default. Second month missed payment. Total due with penalties. $2,850. Remit payment within 72 hours to avoid repossession. $2,850. A small amount for Mark, in normal times. But when he had just drained his account to pay part of Tyler's fines yesterday, $2,800 was impossible. I photographed the letter clearly. Additional evidence. Then, I resealed it with a glue stick so it looked untouched and placed it on the console table in the hallway. The place Mark would definitely see it. That night, I went to bed early, pretending to sleep. I kept my ears sharp. I heard the garage door. Mark's heavy footsteps. His briefcase drop. Then silence. I could imagine his eyes catching the brown envelope. The sound of paper tearing. A long silence. Mark cursed, his voice shaking, almost a whisper of despair. I heard a body slump onto the carpet. Hyperventilating. I cracked the bedroom door. Mark was sitting against the wall, pale as a sheet, holding the paper. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His hands shook as he dialed someone. Hello? Ty? You got any cash? Just $2,000. Help me out, Ty. Sarah's car is gonna get towed. Are you crazy? Nothing left from the remaining capital? Mark slammed his phone onto the carpet. He grabbed his own hair. Watching my husband crumble in the hallway, strangely, there was not a shred of pity in my heart. Only cold satisfaction. You dug your own grave, Mark. Please enjoy the funeral. Panic turns humans into manipulative creatures. Mark proved this the next evening. He came home with takeout pizza and a cheap bouquet of supermarket roses. He lit candles, put on soft music. Surprise for my beautiful wife, he exclaimed, trying to sound cheerful despite the dead look in his eyes. What's the occasion? I asked, playing my part. Nothing. Just want to make you happy. We've been stressed lately. He pulled out a chair for me. We ate. Mark talked about sweet memories. Finally, he played his hand. Honey. He grabbed my hand. I was thinking, the roof is leaking a bit, and I want to renovate the kitchen for you. But we have no savings. He sighed dramatically. What if we apply for a personal loan at the bank? Using your pay stubs. The limit would be high. I promise I'll pay the monthly installments. Incredible. He was trying to trap me into debt to pay off his fraud. I pulled my hand away gently. My face turned sad. Mark, I didn't want to tell you this to add to your stress, but about my pay stubs. What about them? Mark's voice pitched up. My salary for the next 6 months is garnished 70% by the company. That audit error was fatal. I have to pay back the losses. My pay stubs look terrible, Mark. No bank would approve me. My credit score tanked. Checkmate. Mark's jaw dropped. His last hope turned to dust. Garnished 70%? He snapped. How are we supposed to eat? How could you be so stupid at work? You should have fought it. I looked up at him. Tears welling. Why are you calling me stupid? I'm in trouble, Mark. You're the husband. You should say, it's okay. I'll provide 100%. Your salary is intact, right? Silence. Mark turned red. He couldn't say his salary was gone. Without a word, he kicked his chair over and stormed out of the house. Friday afternoon. The sky was dark gray, a dramatic backdrop for the grand finale. I was sipping tea when I saw a taxi screech to a halt out front. Tyler jumped out, looking frantic, carrying a duffel bag. He pounded on the door. Mark! Mark, open up! Mark ran to the door. What happened? It's crazy, Mark! Anthony brought guys to the café. They seized everything. Machines, registers. I ran out the back. I still owe thousands in fines. And he said he's coming here. Before Mark could answer, the rumble of engines filled the street. A tow truck backed into our driveway, blocking my SUV. A black sedan pulled up behind it. 4 large men in heavy jackets stepped out. Repo men. Afternoon, the biggest one shouted. Is this the residence of Mark last name? Title holder for the black SUV? Mark's legs gave out. He backed up into the porch pillar. Yeah, I'm Mark. Can we talk about this inside? You're past talking, buddy. You dodged our calls. We have a repo order. Hand over the keys or we drag it. Wait, please. Give me a week, Mark begged. Tyler hid behind him. Move aside. The man pushed past Mark. It was time. I stepped out onto the porch, looking shocked. Mark? What is going on? Who are these men? The repo man looked at me. Ma'am, we're repossessing the vehicle. Your husband defaulted on a title loan, I gasped, covering my mouth. Title loan? My car? I looked at Mark. Mark, you pawned my car without asking me? Why? Mark stood there, humiliated in front of the neighbors. His brother, and the men. He couldn't speak. Just as the repo man pulled out a Slim Jim to pop the lock, sirens wailed. Whoop whoop. A police cruiser turned into the driveway, followed by a plain sedan. Everyone froze. The repo men stepped back. They hate cops. 2 uniformed officers and 2 detectives in suits stepped out. Mr. Sterling followed them. Mark looked confused. Why cops? Why a lawyer? A detective stepped forward. Mark. Last name? Yes, Mark squeaked. Officer, I'm handling this civil matter. The detective smiled coldly. We're not here for the car loan. We're from the fraud unit. He held up a warrant. Mark, you are under arrest for identity theft, forgery, and wire fraud. You are accused of forging your wife's signature to secure a loan. Mark's world ended. He dropped to his knees. What? Sarah? He looked at me, wildly. Your wife filed the report, Mr. Sterling said calmly. The documents were analyzed. The signature is fake. The repo men, realizing the loan contract was fraudulent and invalid, immediately packed up and left to avoid being accessories. Mark, stand up, the officer ordered, cuffing him. And you. The detective pointed at Tyler. Tyler? Last name? We tracked the funds. Proceeds of fraud went to your account. You're coming in for questioning regarding receipt of stolen property. Mark, help me! Tyler screamed as he was grabbed. Mark looked at me, weeping. Sarah, help! Tell them it's a mistake. I'm your husband. I lowered my hands. No tears. Just ice. We'll talk at the station, Mark, I said flatly, turning back inside as they dragged him away. The interrogation room smelled of stale coffee. Mark and Tyler sat on one side, cuffed. I sat on the other with Mr. Sterling. Sarah, please, Mark begged. I messed up, but I did it for family, for Tyler. Drop the charges. If I go to prison, what will people say? Who will take care of you? I'm sorry, Sarah, Tyler cried. I'll pay it back, I sighed. You think I reported you because I was surprised today? I placed my phone on the table and hit play. She's a pushover. She won't dare protest. She's too busy climbing the corporate ladder to check the safe. The color drained from Mark's face. He looked at me in horror. He finally realized, You knew from the start? Of course I knew, I smiled. I heard you that night. The crypto scam? A lie. My salary garnish? A lie. My money is safe where you can't touch it. Mark stared at me like I was a ghost. Wait, Tyler stammered. If you knew. Anthony? Rachel's friend. I beamed. I sent him to you. I wrote the fine clause. I baited your greed. Tyler put his head on the table and wailed. You asked what my heart is made of, Mark? I stood up. It's made of the pain you caused. You thought I was weak. You forgot that still waters run deep. Mr. Sterling slid a manila folder across the table. Divorce papers. I said, Since you'll be in prison, you don't need to show up. It'll be quick. Sarah, don't leave me. Mark screamed. Enjoy your harvest, Mark. And Tyler, I hope you like warehouse work. You'll be paying Anthony off for years. I walked out, the sound of their crying fading behind me. 3 months later, Mark got 3.5 years for fraud and identity theft. Tyler avoided prison by testifying against Mark, but he is enslaved by debt, working double shifts in a warehouse to pay off the civil judgment from Anthony. The loan on my car was voided due to fraud. I got my title back. I walked out of the courthouse, the sun shining on my face. I stopped in front of my black SUV. I checked my reflection in the side mirror. The woman looking back wasn't the victim from 5 months ago. She was free. I put on my sunglasses, started the engine, and drove away. The story of two parasites named Mark and Tyler was over. My story was just beginning.